Welcome everyone. Let me introduce myself. My name is Christine Hanna. I'm the Wisconsin Department of Transportation Project Manager. I will be going through the first couple slides to introduce the project, and then I will hand it to Nick and Megan to go through the rest of the details. So again, welcome everyone to the East Wall Street first public involvement meeting. This is the pavement replacement project. There's a couple of housekeeping items. This meeting will be recorded, as Megan stated, and posted on milwaukee.gov/dpw/Wall Street. We ask everyone, please mute your microphones. And if you have any questions or comments, please either you raise your hand or you can type in the chat box, and all questions or comments are going to be addressed at the end of the meeting. So a couple of agenda items that we're going to go through. First, project overview, existing condition, schedule of the project, and we'll end up with questions and comments. As you see on the screen, this is a project segment. It starts from Broadway to Prospect Avenue. This is a connected highway, Highway 32, and it's a minor arterial. Let's start with the project overview. The scope of the work, which is about half a mile worth of work, the typicals would include remove and replace pavement. We're going to be adding new curb and gutter, replacing driveway approaches, and sidewalk updated with ADA compliant pedestrian curb ramps. We're going to be upgrading also drainage structures, traffic signals, and street lightings. The goal of this project overall is to improve and upgrade pavement surface, improve conditions for walking and biking, and also make all travel safer and comfortable for everyone. Part of this project is also to adopt the complete street policy, which ensure that we improve the safety and comfort for all the people walking, biking, taking transit, and anyone driving along the corridor. As you see from the couple of slides on the pictures on the slides, we're going to be possibly improving or adding landscape, possibly including some bump outs, as you see from, I'm pointing to it on the slides right here. And there is another picture showing you how the bump outs, the curb bump outs help with the design, which is improving the pedestrian safety and shortness of the crossing. Also, part of the complete street policy is to look into the sidewalk, widen it for possible outdoor business seating, and also allow enough time for pedestrians to maneuver in a safe manner. The funding of the project, the current estimate is between $4.5 to $5 million, and that will be invested in this project. 55% are City of Milwaukee budget, and the 45% are a combination of federal and state aids. They're going to be anticipated some real estate and property owners assessment. This is minor real estate acquisition and possibly temporary limited easements. With that, I will actually hand it to Nick Goodwin to go through more details and introduce himself and all the rest of the project details. Nick?
Thanks, Christine. Like Christine said, my name is Nick Goodwin. I'm the project manager for the City of Milwaukee on the Wells Street project. This street was last improved in 1993. The posted speed limit is 30 miles per hour. The average daily traffic varies from 2,600 vehicles a day on the east end to 5,200 vehicles a day on the west end, so relatively low traffic. And in this area, there's the East Town Association and also the downtown bid. We can move to the next slide. Now we'll go over the existing conditions. So this is East Wells Street from Broadway to Van Buren, the west end of the project. Right now we have two 11-foot driving lanes and a left turn lane, as well as the 5-foot marked bike lanes and the parking lanes, as well as 10-foot full sidewalks. You can kind of see how the typical section and how it looks compared to street views down below. With this meeting, we're going to be taking input on what the public likes to or wants to see out here, or possible improvements. So we're not showing proposed alternatives at this time, we're just taking input. Next slide, please. Here is East Wells Street from Van Buren to Prospect. You can see this is a smaller cross section. We have 2 driving lanes and 2 parking lanes with the terrace area and the sidewalk. And you can kind of see in the street views below how that looks. Next slide. So the tentative schedule for Wells Street. Right now we're in February 2021. We're at the first PIM. We're here to gather community experience and input and to start looking at design options. In the summer of this year, we'll have the second meeting where we will present design alternatives and get comments on those. And later down the project line, we'll have in 2023 a pre-construction meeting where we'll talk about staging, construction access. The tentative construction schedule would be from May to December. Next slide, please. So we want to have a discussion and talk about how everyone here uses Wells Street. What's your experiences while you're walking, driving, riding a bike? What do you like about the street? Where do you see improvement or need for improvement? Where is it difficult to cross the street if it is in any locations? How comfortable are you riding a bike in this area? And how important is street parking to you on Wells Street? And where is it utilized the most? With that, I also want to introduce our support for business liaison, Megan O'Connor. She will be working closely with businesses in the area and residents to keep them informed on this project, what's going on. And Megan, do you want to?
Hi guys, thank you, Nick. Again, I'm Megan O'Connor. I'm the support for business liaison with the City of Milwaukee Department of Public Works. I highly encourage everyone who's in attendance at tonight's meeting to sign up to receive project updates on our website, which is milwaukee.gov/dpw/wells. On our project website, you'll also find a comment form that you can submit any questions or concerns or comments regarding this project directly to the project team. Just wanted to let you guys know that this concludes the formal presentation. So we're really here to spend most of the time listening to you. So if you have any questions or comments, please raise your hand. I will call on you, or you can enter your written comments in the chat box and we will address it.
So Nick and Megan, I'm gonna go back and leave it on the questions, if I know how to go back here. So people can see what are the possible topic of discussions if they have any of those questions. Because these are the main items that we want to get feedback on.
And I can kind of start the talking a little bit here. We're looking at the 2 cross sections.
Hey, Nick.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt you already, but Marie Cohn has raised her hand. So Marie, if you would like to unmute your microphone, we'd love to hear from you.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you again for this opportunity. I hope you can hear me okay. I hear some feedback, but I'm sorry. I first want to thank you for coordinating the meeting. I am a property owner on Wells, so I was very grateful for the invitation for the meeting. My questions are, is this kind of in conjunction with the improvements that are planned for Cathedral Square Park? And also that I thought on one of the diagrams you had shown, Nick, was a 10-foot sidewalk. So would that, if that was 10 feet on both sides, how would that impact the traffic flow?
Okay, so the first part of your question, is this part of the Cathedral Square improvement? We are coordinating with the Cathedral Square on their improvement, Frame the Park, but that is being done separately and before our project. But we're coordinating with them to make sure that our design elements don't clash with what they're doing with frame the square. The second part, you're talking about the sidewalk. Christine, do you want to go to the slide with the typical section? Other way. So, yeah, you're talking about, so this is existing already. So this is Broadway to Van Buren, the west end of the project. And right now there's already 10-foot sidewalks. So to make those sidewalks even wider, one of the potential opportunities that we're looking at, we would look at the left turning lanes and see, based on traffic studies, what is needed and what is not. But right now, it's really in the process to know exactly what we can do. But that's one thing that we can look at is left turn lanes. Do we need them in all these intersections or don't we need them? And that would free up some space to make sidewalks bigger, potentially for bigger seating areas or terrace areas with trees. So that's something that we can look at. But as far as the driving lanes go, those wouldn't be impacted by widening the sidewalk.
Okay, thank you. I was confused on the, realized that you were already 10 feet. Yeah, that is great. And I, haven't studied the plans all that much yet, but I think it's a great idea. It's such an important street, especially with the park and all the festivals that will hopefully be returning. So I'm curious to hear other people's comments as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. I see that Mariana T has her hand raised. He or she,
Yeah,
sorry.
it's actually Mariana and myself, Dave Reed, sharing the whatever teams today. I just wanted to jump in. I'm also the president of Cathedral Square Friends. I just wanted to reiterate, we've been meeting with DPW on Frame the Square and are keeping this project in mind as far as what we've been putting forward. And hopefully they'll have more progress on that soon. As far as just some of the other comments, more from, I guess, personally, but would always support wider sidewalks, bike lanes along there, even at expense of the turn lane. And keep in, so, yeah. That's all I wanted to add.
Thank you. Thank you. Rebecca, I see that your hand is raised.
I do see, I think from Van Buren to Marshall, it's metered parking, and looking at providing accessible on-street parking spaces, if that would be considered.
Christine, can you go up to the other typical section? So right now there's parking and we don't plan on removing parking, if that's what you're asking.
Actually, what I'm talking about is having some of the metered parking spaces designated as accessible on-street parking spaces as part of this project.
I'm not understanding, Nick. Rebecca, are you asking if it has to be removing the metered and making by hour or the vice versa?
No, in PROAG, and I know that the state does not adopt PROAG, but the ADA does require that you use best practice. So therefore, we would look at PROAG where 2% of the of the metered or marked parkings on-street parking spaces need to be accessible within a block, going around a perimeter of a block. And right now, they're not. They're all metered parking spaces, but we would need to consider designating a couple of spaces as accessible on-street parking. We
can look at the parking situation and address any concerns moving forward.
Yeah,
Right now, we haven't looked at specific parking. I think, are you talking about, when you talk about accessible, is that like handicapped? Is that what you're talking about?
Don't say the word handicap. That's a no-no. Accessible. I'm the ADA coordinator for the city, so that's why I'm bringing this up. Yeah, accessible parking spaces, like what we looked at for doing for Cathedral Square for part of that project, that we're putting in 3 accessible on-street parking spaces there. And we would not maybe designating some of those spaces as accessible parking spaces, more by the curb cuts.
So Rebecca, this is Christine. We can definitely, like Nick mentioned, we can look into this, and let's work with Chris Squires, who's the bike and ped coordinator for the DOT as well. So let's work on that together and see what can we offer.
Thank you.
And I think we can have some internal meetings in the future to kind of look into that and solve that issue.
And don't be shy. Type in the questions or raise your hand. Let us hear your ideas, comments, concerns that you have seen either from biking, walking, outdoor business seating, anything like this that we can use to improve or propose alternatives.
Hi, Kyle.
Hi, Megan. Hi, Nick. Hi, Christine. Kyle Gast from Department of City Development. I manage the long range plan for the downtown area, which we are considering actually updating in the coming year or so. I did work on the last long range plan that was developed, which really did recommend deploying complete streets principles or best practices on Wells Street, making it much more friendly for businesses, outdoor dining, adding trees, all those things. So I'm really happy to see that stuff incorporated at this stage of the project. And I'm here to help chime in with any other projects. I kind of want to hear from the other property owners and residents in the area as well. But so far we're really on board with kind of the approach you're taking so far.
Great, thank you. Kind of what Kyle mentioned, getting input from residents and property owners, really, your input will help shape what this road looks like. So we do really want to hear from you to help make the design of this roadway for years to come.
Yeah, I'll add too. I am also a downtown resident in the neighborhood and an employee on Wells Street and a frequenter of some of the establishments on Wells Street, and it really is a great opportunity to kind of transform a really important part of our downtown. So I'm excited that we get the opportunity to weigh in on this.
Gabriel, I see that your hand is raised if you would like to.
Thanks, Megan. This is Gabriel with the Milwaukee Downtown Bid. Good to see everyone. I was curious, there's in recent years, parklets have added to Wells Street, Flannery's, this is at Taylor's. I was curious if any of our downtown businesses, restaurateurs on Wells Street are on the call and willing to chime in on the importance of outdoor seating on Wells Street in terms of this plan.
We can circle back on that. I do see some hands raised, and I'm not sure if they are
Yeah,
managers. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess it's harder virtually than in person. But I do think that, looking at in the past, 2 years or so, and even in response to the pandemic, some of these tactical improvements that we've seen for these parklets, some are long-term, some are just seasonal, but I think all of that is some short-term wins that should try to inform the Wells Street plan moving forward on the lack of space for outdoor seating. Hopefully some of our restaurateurs can chime in, but that's just an observation from the downtown bid perspective.
Great, thank you. Marie Cohn?
Yeah, my question was actually right along those same lines. I also frequent a couple places there on Wells, Flannery's in particular, who's definitely been hit hard with the pandemic. And I know when they incorporated or were able to put some of that outdoor platform seating area, it was a boost for them, when the weather was good. So does it sound like there would be something that would be more of a permanent fix for that type of outdoor seating? Because I know some businesses were trying to use like heaters and things like that.
Well, as part of this project, like I said, we are looking at widening the sidewalk. And that would give more room to those sidewalk seating areas. And as far as anything like heating or anything like that, that's not anything that will be a part of the project. But we will definitely be looking to improve those areas for places like you mentioned, Flannery's, where they'll have a wider area to conduct their business. And another important thing to think about is, how important is the parking in these areas block by block. We're looking at the street as it is and what we want it to look like. And, some areas where we can get width for sidewalk or other things, we can look at the turn lanes or potentially parking.
Our guest Jose has his hand raised. If you would like to unmute your microphone.
Hi, I hope you guys can hear me okay.
Yes.
Thanks for taking the time to have this meeting. I'm a resident and a worker in the area, so while I don't live right on Wells, but I find myself on it relatively often to go to various restaurants and the Cathedral Square Park and all that. So just to give you guys my experience, I think it's a pretty fine street. The best thing it has going for it, in my opinion, is that it just doesn't have much traffic on it, which makes for more pleasant streets. So, as far as walking, there's obviously improvements that can be made, but I feel pretty comfortable walking on it. I personally feel comfortable riding my bike on it, although I would say that's because I'm a relatively experienced bike rider. I can see how inexperienced bike riders would have a bit more issues just because parts of the road don't really have any bike facilities and parts of it have just painted bike lanes, which in my opinion, and I think in a lot of people's opinions, really don't do that much for comfort. So I guess from my point of view, I really look for curb bump outs and just things to improve pedestrianization, just to make it more accessible and easier for everyone to walk. But I'd also very much support improved bike facilities. Ideally, protected bike lanes that are raised to the sidewalk level versus being between the parking lane and the driving lane. Yeah, so I guess I'm not sure. Obviously, this isn't a very long stretch of road. I'm not really sure if there's a longer term planned network of protected bike lanes for downtown, and I'm not sure if this is on that network or not. But in my opinion, downtown barely has any right now, and you need to start somewhere. So I would definitely support protected bike lanes for this road. So I guess, yeah, that's mostly comments. I'm not sure if anyone can answer any of that right now, but I mostly just wanted to at least provide my comments. And thanks again.
Thank you. Right now, we're taking all input. So, you know, we're not designing yet. We're taking all this input before we put our designs together. So appreciate your comments.
Hi, Kyle Gast again. I'm looking at the Google Street View as we're talking. I do notice that we kind of have the standard Cobra lights out there. Would there be any opportunity as part of this project to add HARP lights, similar to some other downtown and neighborhood main streets? Or maybe a discussion if there needs to be additional funding for that, how that could potentially be. I know it looks like Cathedral Square has a few HARP lights, but it looks like the main line of Wells is mostly the standard Cobra lights. And HARP lights could be a nice touch.
At this point, I haven't heard about any decorative lighting. I don't believe anybody from City of Milwaukee Street Lighting is here. If you are, you can speak up. But as of right now, there will be street lighting improvements, but I haven't heard about like decorative HARP lighting.
And I would add to that too, there's been kind of a trend, especially downtown, of those large 5G poles going in. Knowing that that's not part of the project, but if we can maybe anticipate any additional poles and kind of get ahead with that with the sighting and whatnot and kind of coordinate. So they're
Kyle,
not like, yeah.
Kyle, this is Christine Hanna from the DOT. If there is a need or a request for decorative lighting, the state would not have any problem with that. However, we're only funding the basic. So any cost differential has to be funded by the City of Milwaukee.
Okay. So yeah, I think we just appreciate the continued conversations on that, see what the opportunities are.
Yeah, we can set up something in the future and we can include you on it and see what we can do.
And that's a good point about the 5G poles. We can, when we're doing our utility coordination, sort out any issues, potential issues with that in advance. So thanks, Kyle.
Yeah, and I would just say, like, it seems kind of like the default section could maybe mirror Mason Street, where basically the center turn lane goes away and you get that extra 5.5 feet on either side of the sidewalk as kind of a starting point, and then, you know, the parking lane can kind of flex between parklets and parking and accessible parking and green infrastructure and other kind of things as businesses see fit along the way. I think that's a nice starting point, but I know we'll look at different variation options later on in the process.
Thanks, Kyle. I see that Terry has the hand raised.
Yeah, hi there. I appreciate the opportunity to hear a little bit more about this project and to weigh in a little. I'm a downtown resident and I also work at Marquette University, and I typically walk to and from work, periodically jump on the bus. And I actually find that I don't use Wells Street very much, except for right at Cathedral Square. I feel like it's, I don't know, maybe had a reputation as being a little bit more of like a fast thoroughfare through downtown, especially when it was one way. But I think it would be great to see it kind of slow down a little bit and be a little bit more pedestrian friendly around the other areas besides just Cathedral Square. I typically, when I walk to Marquette, I may walk like through the park or, you know, walk on Wells just for that block, but I typically turn on Jefferson because I don't find it to be a very attractive street. So I think adding some interest to the street and, I don't know, might make it a little bit more appealing. And I don't know a whole lot about some of the other businesses or opportunities for businesses to maybe locate to the parts of Wells Street that aren't really used a whole lot right now. I haven't been paying a lot of attention, but appreciate your efforts to make our downtown street nicer.
Thanks, Terry.
Yeah.
So just looking at some of the comments coming through, Matt Donor, who's part of the Downtown Business Improvement District, wanted to say that he agreed with Kyle's and Dave's comments regarding the complete streets approach that expands sidewalks for more outside seating, crosswalk, bump outs, bike lanes, street trees. And it's a really great opportunity to connect the new larger sidewalks at the new BMO Tower at Broadway to Juneau Park with Cathedral Square in the middle. So thank you, Matt, for those comments. Gabriel had a question. Is there an opportunity for boulevard trees to blur street edge and park edge between Jefferson and Jackson?
I guess I'm not exactly sure what you're asking.
Gabriel, are you able to elaborate a little bit on what you mean by that? Are you able to?
Sure. Yeah, I wasn't, there's the idea of just blurring the park boundary and edge with Wells Street. And if there's an opportunity, I know there's a driveway and alleyway on Wells Street, I think in the Madison Medical Complex between Jackson and Jefferson Street. But curious if there's, it's such a wide street, there's so much opportunity to actually utilize the space differently. I wonder if that could be an opportunity for a middle boulevard in the street for trees that would kind of blend the park or blend the park and integrate it with the street a little bit better.
I think at this time, and like I said, we're accepting all input, but at this time, we weren't looking to the middle of the street to add medians or anything like that. We're looking on the outside edges. So if trees were to be incorporated, it would be next to the sidewalk in a terrace area, or the wider sidewalks and the potential for terrace area with trees. That's kind of what we're looking at right now.
This is Mary again. Is there any plans to add additional parking, since on a couple of the other streets it's more diagonal parking? Because on the peak times, like on weekends and things, parking can be a little bit, well, not so much as of recent, but Madison Medical gets quite a bit of traffic. Is there any plans to add any additional spots or go to more diagonal park?
Well, with that, you have to look at, if you add space for something, you're taking space away for something else. So if we add more space to add diagonal parking, we're going to have to take away from either sidewalks or other things. So there's some give and take with that. I don't think adding parking is what we were having in mind, but if that, I don't think we're going to be adding diagonal parking or adding additional spots. There are parking structures in the area, so that I don't believe will be considered.
Thank you.
I think someone else has their hand raised.
Yes. Hi, Dan. You can unmute your microphone.
Hi. I really like the idea of the bump outs and extending the sidewalk to provide for outdoor seating. I think that's great. My fear is that we would lose any parking spots in the process. Would that happen?
Well, at this point, we're looking at, well, one of the things we're asking is how important is parking to you? And if it's, like you're saying, very important, then, you know, we don't have to consider losing parking. But that's what this whole discussion is about, to see, like, what design features do we want to change to make sidewalks bigger, like the left turn lanes between Broadway and Van Buren.
I own the business on the corner of Jefferson and Wells, and we've heard a lot about the plans for Jefferson Street. And if those plans go forward, we will lose, I think, 10 parking spots on Jefferson Street. So we really don't want to lose any more spots anywhere else. So it is a big concern for us.
Okay. Noted. We'll definitely take your comment into consideration. Thank you.
And Dan, as a support for business liaison, we'll do specific outreach to businesses to, you know, discuss this project moving forward as well.
Great. We really appreciate it.
Yep. I'm sorry, I'm going to pronounce your name wrong again. Mariana T.
Are we on? Oh. And again, it's actually Dave. I just wanted to, yeah, we just have the wrong name on the thing, or Mariano's name on it. But
yeah, I'm here too.
But yeah, I mean, just sort of listening to Dan, ideally in my mind, you know, the turn lanes is where I would sort of consider getting rid of first. And to find, you know, if you got rid of the turn lanes, then you would have space for wider sidewalks, bike lanes and everything without really impacting parking. And then you can figure out if people wanted permanent parklets or not or whatever. But to me, the turn lane is where you get the space from. Just my thoughts.
Mm-hmm. And Nick, would there be an alternative to see what people think about getting rid of the turn lane and possibly the bike lane? Since we do have bike lanes on Mason and Kilbourne, that could give you like 20-foot sidewalks. I'm not saying that that's the best alternative. It's just, it would be interesting. It would be more of a Brady Street style section.
I'm not saying.
Like Fifth Street.
I'm not saying that anything's off the table, but usually we try to balance the different modes of traffic. With being a low volume street, striped bike lanes usually work better in lower volume roads like Wells. We are looking to widen the sidewalks, like we said. The left turn lanes will be looked at in a traffic study. We have consultants doing a study on that to see if it's feasible or not. So we're discussing it all well and good, but we still have to have the report in hand to do something like that. But yeah, these are things we can all look at. You know, we had another person want not just marked lanes, they wanted, or they discussed wanting protected lanes, and then, you know, somebody talks about not having bike lanes at all. So it's different, you know, it's give and take. We have to figure out what's best for the corridor and its users.
They're all trade-offs.
This is Jeff Neeson. I apologize. I'm just on the phone, so I'm not unable to raise my hand. Can I offer
Yeah, go ahead.
suggestions? I live right on Wells Street, and I would hate to not have the bike lanes on this improved street. I think the pedestrian safety and so forth is paramount. And while I appreciate the need for parking, if we had to lose a stall or two along, you know, a particular block in order to accomplish those other things, I think that's necessary. I am perfectly fine losing some of the turning lanes and so forth. And I also wonder about whether I like the idea of the wider sidewalks to encourage outdoor dining and so forth, but for the areas of the street that don't have restaurants that might take advantage of that, is there an option for planters or terraces or something to create more green, that softening, if you will, to sort of blend with the park. I'd appreciate some thought around how that might work.
The short answer is yes. We can consider terrace area over wider sidewalk depending on where we are. This is such a short project, less than a half a mile. We can kind of look at things for some of the design features block by block almost. But yeah, that's definitely, terrace area of trees is definitely something that can be considered.
Thank you.
We also received a written comment from Paul George that he thinks bike lanes shouldn't be removed. So I just wanted to read that update on our chat box.
And I have a text message from someone who says, I bike on Wells. So apparently my comment trying to extend the amount of options was not well taken. That's I agree that the best solution does keep the standard bike lanes. And there's a lot of options too.
And just to add to you, Kyle, with that would not allow the bike lane to be removed from Wells.
That makes sense. Yep.
Yeah, so we would want to maintain it.
And not only are we maintaining it, but we're looking to add it on the other half of the project. Right now, it's only in the first 3 blocks from Van Buren to Broadway, but we're looking to add it from Van Buren to Prospect as well.
Would that impact any trees?
Go ahead, Glenn.
Would that impact the tree lawn on that area?
Right now, we have very wide driving lanes. Christine, can you go to the other?
Yeah, I showed them at 14 feet. So.
Yeah, so we can kind of trim back on the driving lanes and potentially the parking lane. We'll have to look at. We haven't, proposed any alternatives on this yet, but try not to impact any of the trees and things like that. But yeah, it would be nice to have the bike lane go all the way through this less than half-mile segment.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Yeah, and Nick, like we were discussing for the parking lanes, especially if we want to add bike lanes / parking, the removal of the parking doesn't have to be on both sides, so it depends. It could be one of the alternative, remove on one side and keep on the other. So this is something else that we can look at.
Hi, Greg, you can unmute your microphone and.
Hi, I'm Greg Patton. I live in the neighborhood, and just one section about the. I'm somebody who likes to bike on Wells Street, but biking when you're east of Van Buren is a very easy, pleasant experience in mixed traffic, and that's obviously not true in the east as you go further west of Van Buren. So the bike lanes there seem somewhat important. I would hate to see the street widen, however, in that section east of Van Buren. Is there a possibility that from that stretch there, those could be marked as with sharrows or something, so that we don't go and widen the street? Because I'd hate to see the street widen here. That's really my question or comment or whatever.
So let me jump on this real quick before you say something. So the short answer to you is we are not planning to widen the road. So either we move the curb line in to reduce some of that travel lane and accommodate for wider outdoor seating for businesses / pedestrian, or let it to remain as is. But removing the curb out is not part of this project, no.
Oh, okay, so you would not widen the street in the very eastern end of this project, okay?
No.
That's, okay, good. I just wanted to make sure, because I hate to see the tree lawn lost and trees lost. Okay, thank you.
No. Nick, do you want to add something?
That's what you said is correct, and we would take away from the driving lanes because they're wider than they need to be, and we can even consider looking at parking lane width to make other accommodations, to make those bicycle accommodations possible.
Are there any intersections or crosswalks that residents and property owners have difficulty crossing or visibility that we should be aware of to help address? So I'm opening up that question to any resident or guest who's in attendance at this meeting tonight. Hi, Greg, you can go ahead.
You're muted.
Greg, you can go ahead. I see that your hand is raised.
He's trying to talk there. You got to unmute yourself.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Wasn't unmuting. A lot of people would hope I never unmute. Nonetheless, I think what you were asking is really is to narrow crosswalks, and I think wherever bump outs are appropriate, if they work. I mean, they generally, I mean, there's no transit stops along here. I know bump outs don't work where there's bus stops, for instance, but there's no bus that runs on the street. So it seems like it would work. Bump outs would work well on many of the intersections, and I think a smaller crossing dimension would be great. And I think that also gives the opportunity to really have a better pedestrian crossing experience and really making sure it works well for all people.
Great, thank you.
So,
And I think you said narrow crosswalk, but more like shorten it.
I see that Jose has his hand raised.
Yeah, I guess just off the top of my head, I think the only real crosswalks that seem longer to me than normal are Van Buren and the southern part of Jackson, at least. I don't know if that's actually true, if they're longer than the other crosswalks, but just the way that those roads are, being one way, and just, I feel like those roads carry a lot of traffic. Those crosswalks seem a bit longer to me. Yeah, just to pitch in on that question.
Thank you. Rebecca, you're next.
Hi. The crosswalks, bump outs help provide possibilities for having curb cuts go up for accessible parking spaces, but then also you have access aisles, built-in access aisles with bike lanes as well. That helps as far as designating accessible parking spaces.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Marie, I see that your hand is raised.
Yeah, I was just gonna make a comment on the busier intersections. I would say at Wells and Jackson, just because it is well, the buses are there all the time, and also people do tend to go a little bit fast coming down Jackson as they head towards getting on the expressway. So that corner always seems busy to me. Plus, they've got the school, drop-offs and everything else, buses sometimes. That would be the one corner where I would say would be most, kind of hectic, I guess.
Great, thank you.
And I do like, I don't know if it's, I would say around the streetcar stops, it really makes sense to go all in because that's really where we've put our investment in that pedestrian and transit infrastructure. So the more friendly we can make the street, Milwaukee and Broadway for pedestrians, the better, and just really integrate it with those streetcar platforms. And then, as was already mentioned with Jackson and Van Buren are very fast moving streets. And then Jefferson's probably the most pedestrian friendly street. So really all 5 of those intersections are really, really key to do right.
Matt just chimed in the chat box that he agrees that slowing traffic at Jackson and Van Buren would be good. Sometimes cars are going way too fast near Cathedral Square. Marie, you can go ahead again.
Okay, I'm sorry. I need a little clarification on the what is that street? I'm horrible with that. But where the hop stop is on the other side of the park, is it currently where the cars can park with the meter and then the bike lane is on the inside of that, or am I confused?
Are you referring to the hop stop on Kilbourne?
On Kilbourne, right. So when they changed that and they put the stop, the cars parked out from the curb, and I want to say the bike lane is on the inside of those spots, but I could be wrong. If someone could chime in on that.
Yes, sorry, yeah. Scott Reinbach with Traffic Engineering here. On Kilbourne Avenue, there is actually a protected bike lane installed, meaning the bike lane is actually located directly adjacent to the curb, whereas there is parallel parking farther away from the curb and into the roadway. So the parking lane essentially provides protection for the bicyclists out there, which is a little bit different compared to other bike lanes throughout the city. So just to clarify, yes, the parking lane is actually in the roadway, whereas the bike lane is directly adjacent to the curb on Kilbourne.
Has that proven to be a safer option for bicyclists? I don't know if there's been any studies on that, but I'd be curious if people think that that's a better option than putting the bike lane right into the traffic.
I guess we don't have any localized data yet to measure specific safety benefits out here on Kilbourne. A lot of people certainly feel more comfortable riding their bike directly adjacent to the curb just to have that protection through parked vehicles next to them. I guess we have had some concerns with turns at intersections, so there are kind of some trade-offs there, but I think most people feel more comfortable riding in the protected bike lanes.
Is that something that our frequent bikers think would be a better thing to think about, or is it, I bike occasionally, but I'm not one of those people out on Wells every day with my bike.
It's Dave again.
Dave, yeah.
I just heard the discussion on the protected bike lanes, and as a regular bicyclist and a resident of the neighborhood, and I would love to see more protected bike lanes. I'd like to see them with a little more infrastructure than the poles, but the concept of moving the bike lane to the curb, swapping the position of the parking and the bike lanes is something that I would love to see.
This is Christine. I just want to make comment here about having the bike lanes adjacent to the curb, in between the curb and the parking. I don't know if you can see the typical section here, but typically adjacent to the curb line is the drainage. And we don't want the bikers to be closer to the drainage and having any accidents or any a fracture in the structure, or even driving on the joints. So having them actually adjacent to the parking, closer to the travel lane, has been discovered to be a safer, hence that we provide enough space. So the space here is the key. The width of the travel lane is the key here to keep the bikers safe. So this is just a comment for anyone else.
Yeah, I guess I'll just jump in and, protected bike lanes are used in cities around the world. And I think if Mike Hammond was on the call, he'd argue that they've seen an increase in ridership on Kilbourne and multiple different streets where they've installed them. I don't know if there's space or not. I haven't stared at the street myself, but I don't know.
Yeah,
generally speaking, most cities are pushing for those now.
Yeah, this is Mike Amsden, DPW Multimodal Transportation Manager. I don't want to divert too far into the conversation of bike lane design here, but absolutely you're right. Most cities at this point are striving to install kind of higher level, kind of all ages and abilities protected bike lanes. Cities across the country have found that they do make streets safer for all users, people walking, biking, and driving. But with that said, every street's different, and every street, needs may be different in terms of, what sort of bike accommodations. So I think, as Nick has said, we're absolutely going to look at alternatives and take feedback tonight to figure out what may be best here. But generally speaking, we are striving to install protected bike lanes whenever appropriate and whenever necessary. But again, we'll look at all options here.
Thank you, Mike. So our meeting does go till 7. We were planning on doing another presentation at 6 p.m. if we see more people signing in. Our participant list has not, I don't see any new ones yet, so we can continue this conversation if you would like.
Kyle Gast again. I just want to thank the project team for providing this space for everyone to talk. And I'm pleased with the trajectory of the projects thus far.
Thanks, Kyle. We do have some guests who signed in later. If we could maybe at 6:05 go back to the beginning of the presentation.
Hey, Kyle. I know you sent an email earlier about kind of the planning as far as Wells Street is concerned from the localized plan. Well, you sent it to Mike and then he forwarded it to me. Did you want to kind of touch on what has been planned as far as the planning level for this street with regards to like wider sidewalks and things like that?
Yeah, I could certainly touch on so the current plan on the books for downtown, which is the land use plan, which does dive into some transportation stuff, but it was approved in 2010, so it's a little old. At that time, we we weren't quite sure the alignment of the streetcar. Actually, Wells Street was considered a potential streetcar alignment at that time. But the overall concept was that, you know, it was really important to make Wells more of a complete street. Most important was wider sidewalks for the businesses. And there was actually even like a diagram of what it could look like a hand sketch of with Wells with reduced in size, and just to really make it a more pedestrian-friendly, pedestrian-oriented environment along Wells Street, especially between City Hall and Cathedral Square. So everything that I've heard today makes me feel like that's the path that this project is going on. So that's great, and you know the plan would back that up. I would also say I don't know, we haven't done any public announcement, but we're considering later in the year kicking off an update to that plan, which would be more of a strategic update. But part of that would be looking larger scale at some of the potential transportation, you know, from a network perspective, you know, in partnership with you guys at DPW, but also to address kind of the land use concerns in the area and development opportunities. So that's kind of what's going on in the downtown planning world. But certainly the 2010 downtown plan really highlighted Wells Street as a really important link in the pedestrian environment for the center of downtown.
Thanks, Kyle. With that, do we want to go run through the presentation one more time for the couple people who missed it? Christine, do you want to go back to the first page and we can just do a quick run through of what we already kind of said?
This page right here?
Yep.
Okay.
You want to give it like you did the first time? Or do you want me to
Sure,
go through it?
let's go through that. Let me just do this real quick. Okay. Then, welcome to the new joiners. My name is Christine Hanna. I'm the project manager for the Department of Transportation, and this is the first public information meeting for East Wall Street project, which is considered to be pavement replacement. Let's go through that. A couple of housekeeping items. This meeting will be recorded and is recorded and will be posted on milwaukee.gov/dpw/Wall Street. As Megan indicated, please mute your microphone, and if you have any questions or comment, please use the raise hand function or type your question in the chat box. Agenda. We're going to be going over the project overview, existing condition, schedule, and at the end and through the project discussion, we'll be having questions and comments addressed. The project location, it extends from Broadway to Prospect Avenue. This is a connecting highway project, Highway 32, and is a minor arterial. Project overview. The scope of this project is to remove and replace pavement, new curb and gutter, driveway approaches, and sidewalk with ADA compliant pedestrian curb ramps. Also, we'll be upgrading the drainage structures, traffic signals, and street lighting. The goal of this project is to improve the pavement surface, conditions for walking and biking, and making all travel safe and comfortable for everyone. We're going to be adopting the complete street strategy, which adding example element like landscaping, curb bump outs, to improve the safety and comfort for, again, people walking, biking, taking transit, and along the corridor traveling. Again, this is a complete street, another view, so widening the sidewalk to have maybe possible outdoor seating, in addition to have enough pedestrian walking for all modes of transportation. Funding. This is a construction estimate, as you see on the screen, is between $4.5 to $5 million that will be invested in this project. 55% is a city participation, and the remaining 45% is federal and state participation. There are going to be some anticipated, not confirmed yet, assessment to properties, either minor real estate acquisition or temporary limited easement due to the construction. Nick, do you want to take over from here? Nick, you're muted. You're muted. We can't hear you.
Sorry about that. I'm here now. Wells Street, and this segment was last improved in 1993. The posted speed is 30 miles per hour. Average daily count varies from 2,600 vehicles a day on the east end to 5,200 vehicles a day on the west end. In this area is East Town Association and the Downtown Business Improvement District. We'll go over the existing conditions now. So Wells Street from Broadway to Van Buren, which is on the west end of the project, there are 2 driving lanes and a turn lane, and as well as 2 bike lanes and 2 parking lanes. Right now we're looking at the existing segments to get input. We'll look at potentially widening sidewalks and looking at changing the existing roadway layout to get those wider sidewalks. As mentioned earlier in the presentation, the left turn lanes between Broadway and Van Buren are being looked at in a traffic study to see whether or not those are needed and whether or not that space can be converted into other uses. Next slide, please. So Wells Street, this is the east end of the project from Van Buren to Prospect. The road right now is 44 feet and it has 2 driving lanes and 2 parking lanes. We discussed earlier in the meeting to potentially modify this segment to not be any wider, but to also accommodate bicycles. And you can see from the pictures down below where the roadway looks like this. Next slide, please. So the tentative project schedule, right now we're in February 2021. This is the first meeting where we're gathering input. And we'll be coming up with our design options. Summer of this year, we're going to have our second PIM and present alternatives and design plans, where we'll get more input. Finally, in 2023, we will have the pre-construction meeting. We'll present construction staging and access details. We'll have the tentative construction go from May to December of that year. Next slide, please. And then this was our discussion slide where we wanted to hear about your experience on Wells Street while walking, driving, riding a bike, using any mode of transportation. What do you like about the street? Where do you see need for improvement? Is it difficult to cross in any locations? How comfortable are you riding a bike? And how important is the street parking to you? And then again, the website is milwaukee.gov/dpw/wells, where we will have this recording, and any updates to the project will be on there. You can also follow us on Twitter and find us on Facebook. It's important to sign up to receive project updates, and you can also submit your comments online.
I see that Tarian has a hand raised. If you can unmute your microphone. I see in the chat box that guest was asking about the funding results. Will the funding result in increased property taxes for the residents?
So there's an assessment that goes out based on sidewalk and driveway approaches that are reconstructed in front of your property. And that's a separate bill from your property taxes, but I'm not an expert at this, but if it's not paid, then it goes onto the property tax. Do you know more about that, Megan?
No, I don't know how that affects property taxes moving forward, just besides the assessment bill that the property owner receives from the project. And I do see the microphone is unmuted. you wanted to ask your questions or comments, Tyrion.
Assessments will be sent out closer to like the 90% stage in the project, just before construction. And yeah, that will be based on, like I said, the sidewalk and driveway approaches that are reconstructed in front of your property. A portion of that is paid for by the participating dollars from the state and from the city, and then a portion comes from the property owner. So it's still a lot less expensive than if this was a project without any state aid.
Very true.
Is there another hand raised?
Oh, we can't hear you, Tarian. I know you just entered in the chat box. We're having difficulty hearing you. The question, Nick, is the 50-some% contribution from the city from property taxes?
I'm not really suited to speak on that. That's not my area of expertise. There's different ways that the city brings in funding, and then it goes into different pots of money, like a general transportation fund and other things. That's a little bit out of my element. I can find out more information for you on that. But right off the top of my head, I don't know.
So Nick and Megan, it seemed that we had this question asked for the second time. So why don't we have like the link of the project on the DPW website, a couple of questions and answers posted. So if we find out the answer later on for the assessment for the property based on the impact of the real estate, then we can post this for everyone to see instead of answering one-on-one.
Yes, of course. We'll post it on our website, and then if you sign up for project updates, we can put that information in that email as well.
Yeah, I can talk directly with the section that does the assessments, and I can have more information in short order on that.
Thanks, Nick. Tarian's reaction is that it's always a good thing to add to the street some attraction. However, the financing part is the major concern.
I also would like to mention what a opportunity is to get funding from the state and federal levels to do these type of projects. It's very rare. We have, I forget how many hundreds of miles of streets in the city, and very few are eligible to receive this type of funding. So it's a really good thing that's going to have a big benefit on this area and its residents and users.
Tarian, we can't hear you.
You can read that you're concerned with property taxes. This meeting is about the transportation project, not about individual property taxes. The assessment part can be kind of talked about, but this is really specifically about the transportation project.
Nick, can you go over the approval process for this project? That was a question that just came in.
Sure. So the approval process for the city happens towards the 90% of the plan when we set up the construction funding resolution, and it'll go to council, and if there are any objections to the project, they would be heard at that time.
So the follow-up question is it happening no matter what?
Well, no project is guaranteed, but the money's in place and we're moving forward with design.
Is the budget set?
Funding for design is set up. Funding for construction, as far as the city goes, has not been, construction funding has not been set up for construction engineering. But money is set aside for the construction itself.
And can you go back over when was the stage that the public was involved in improving the project? You were previously just saying about the Public Works Committee.
Public Works Committee set up the funding in 2019. It was at the Public Works meeting, which are always allowed to be attended by the public. The public doesn't Yes, Mary?
Yeah, just a quick question on the, if you expand the sidewalks, does that entail taking the current sidewalks out completely?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it would be a complete removal and replacement.
So Nick, the resident didn't hear your previous answer to the question. Was anyone from the public at that committee hearing in support of it?
So basically, it's probably best to talk to your local alderperson if you have an issue with the process. They represent their district, and they're the ones who approved it.
Your alderperson is Alderman Bob or Robert Bauman.
Sure, Nick and Megan, just to chime in, just to make sure that we're not causing any confusion.
Yeah.
I guess really all that's happened on this project so far is like the city of Milwaukee, we prepared an application to apply for state and federal aid funding to eventually replace roads throughout the city. So I guess we at the City of Milwaukee Department of Public Works will apply for many projects on an annual basis. And really all that's occurred so far on this project is the department, they received our application, reviewed it, and they've authorized and set up funds for us to begin the design process. That's really where we're at right now. We're just beginning design on this project, which is going to be ongoing as shown on the screen here. So really all that we've done is just set up funds for the design to begin. And WSDOT has set up funds for construction in the future. They've just set aside the funds. So this is really our first public involvement meeting per se, other than the original Public Works Council meeting. So we're really just starting design right now.
Thanks for that clarification, Scott.
Marie, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I actually have to jump off the call, but I did want to thank you guys again for the meeting, the information. I think it's one of the most beautiful parts in the city, so I am really looking forward to the improvements.
Thanks for all your input, Mary.
Thank you so much.
Have a good night. Just to let everyone know, we have gone through the presentation formally, so the project team is just here to 7 to answer any questions and gather input.
Well, thank you, Christine and Nick and Megan. I'll sign off now, but I'll just say too, there was some of the conversation at the end. I think this is a really great opportunity, and these are really competitive funds. Just I know everyone knows that, but we really fight hard to get these funds from state and federal resources. So we're really it's really a blessing for the city and for the neighborhood that we are allowed to get some of that resource that could have gone to other cities in the state. So I know the match is significantly on the state to bear. So well, thank you guys again for having the space for everyone to talk.
Thanks, Kyle, for the perspective on the planning as well.
So, Megan, I have a quick recommendation for you guys before everybody disappear. Maybe we should have similar to what we have on National Avenue, some sort of advisory committee where we have like some representative of the business district within this segment of the project. Kyle can bring his group, the president. I heard the president of one of the organization of the neighborhood, something like that, to maybe Alderman Bauman, if you want to join us, something to kind of collect people information versus going to a year from now to the next public information meeting, so we can get continuous feedback about what they want to see, as long as we are producing and progressing through the project design. So this is another concept we are using on a different project. Not sure if you, Nick and Megan and Kyle, if you want to do it on this project too. I'll leave this up to you.
I'd be happy to put together an advisory committee if you guys would like.
We'd certainly be interested in partaking, and I know the downtown bid district would as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably a good idea. There's a lot, quite a few groups and a lot of interested parties, so probably a good idea.
Okay, good. So all of us in agreement. So thanks, Megan, for volunteering to put this together.
Yep.
Sorry to put you on the spot here, but you're the expert, so I cannot say otherwise.
So just to answer Paul George's question, was this meeting just to get public opinion and provide awareness to the public? Will the suggestions from the public affect the final decision and design?
The reason why we have these meetings are to collect the input to impact the design. So to answer your question, yes, the suggestions from the public will affect final decisions and the design. We are working within federal, state, and local guidelines, but yes, we will. Public input is taken into strong consideration when doing our design. Obviously, there was differing opinions, which is always expected at these things, but we kind of look at what is, provides the best product for the most people.
I'll just add, Megan, before I go, I sort of hinted at potential upcoming planning process for the downtown area as a whole, and there might be some synergies there. If you're trying to build out a small group, we could certainly talk about that.
Yeah, that would be great. Thanks, Kyle.
Other than that, good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. Thanks, Kyle.
Stick around for about 20 more minutes and see if anybody else wants to give their input. Thanks, Shireen.
Thanks, Joseph. Have a good night.
Thanks, Paul.
Is it okay if I stop recording? Right now, it's just internal city people on the line.
I think we can stop the recording.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so too.